WCPFC manages the world's largest tuna fishery. There are 5 global tuna management organizations in the world. The Indian Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, the Eastern Pacific, the southern bluefin tuna, which is in the southern portion of the Pacific, and then WCPFC in the purple, Western and Central Pacific Ocean. More than 50% of the world's tuna is coming from our waters. It is hugely significant. Now, this is the convention area, and you can see the management area is defined by these red lines. I think I've got a pointer. These boundaries. We are undefined up in the northwest quadrant. The majority of this convention area is made up of exclusive economic zones. And that's what makes this organization unique from other organizations. We cover exclusive economic zones, island communities, Pacific Island communities. And so the high seas areas are slightly less than in other global tuna organizations. And what it really means is that the small island developing states or the large ocean states play a hugely significant role in the success of this organization. This organization, the tuna stocks that are managed by the WCPFC are in a biologically sustainable condition because of the strength of the small island developing states. The FFA members have so much to lose, but so much to gain as well by managing properly, by managing sustainably. So WCPFC really stands out among its group of tuna organizations because of the success of management measures. And as it should, as the world's largest fishery feeding so much of the world's population, we really can't afford failure. The WCPFC Convention is rooted in the Law of the Sea Convention and the United Nations Fish Stocks Agreement, 2 really important international arrangements that set the foundation for the work that we do. So really quickly, what is WCPFC's role? It's all about cooperation. WCPFC brings together all the interests, all the stakeholders to develop consistent measures, compatible measures that apply to the same stock of fish that are traveling across the Pacific Ocean, in and out of exclusive economic zones and into the high seas. So it ensures that we're not applying different measures to the same stock of fish. So WCPFC, in this meeting that's coming up, it provides this platform for cooperation in shared management of shared resources. So in a nutshell, that is the essence of what WCPFC does. In doing that, the convention requires us to apply the best available science, and that's where the good work of the SPC comes in, the Oceanic Fisheries Program. The WCPFC contracts the SPC to provide scientific advice. The FFA Secretariat provides the vessel monitoring system, and that ensures that the WCPFC didn't create another system in the region, but that it builds on the foundations that the Pacific Island countries have already established in monitoring fishing vessels and fishing activity. These are the committees that provide advice to WCPFC, and these have all met throughout the year, except for the Finance and Admin Committee, which meets on Wednesday. That's the committee that decides the budget for the commission. And then the objective of the convention, which I find this objective and the way that it's worded to be really encapsulating of everything that this commission would experience since the convention was adopted in 2000. It is broad enough and has the ability in this objective and the way that it's worded and crafted to cater to all of the things that have taken place in the last 24 years since the convention was adopted, to make sure that this commission can adapt, that it can be flexible. And I'm talking about things like climate change that the commission has now started to really take seriously and think about how to incorporate in fisheries management. We're talking about deep sea mining now in this commission for the first time, and how these other ocean activities and these other international agreements are going to impact the way we manage fisheries. And so this objective is really, in my view, really well drafted to be able to allow the Commission to be flexible and be adaptive into the future. Article 30 is a real foundational article in the Convention. It's the principle of supporting the developing states and the most vulnerable among them, which is a reference to the small island developing states, and the territories, which we refer to as the participating territories. So it's the French territories, the US territories in the region. And so Article 30 covers a fairly broad range of obligations and requirements of members to ensure that at the end of the day, the small island developing states are able to participate in the development of management measures, in the conservation and management of these fisheries that are so crucial to these island economies. Article 30 discussions are often, they take place at the beginning of the meeting because they're foundation setting. It ensures that as the Commission works through its agenda and considers new measures, that it is doing that from a base of consideration for the needs of small island developing states and communities. I will go through the next three really quickly and then I'll stop. So these are the key species that we are managing, the tuna species, the 6 tuna species on the left, my left. The billfish, striped marlin and swordfish in the North and South Pacific. And then we have a lot of management measures in place to minimize the impact of fishing on these bycatch or non-target species. Birds, turtles, cetaceans, some shark species. And this is all part of the whole ecosystem-based fisheries management approach. This is a term that's really growing in importance at the global level with the BBNJ treaty that's just come online, these plastics treaties, the biodiversity convention and protocols. These are all ecosystem focused. They're all coming at the ocean as from the point of view of this is a whole system that needs to be managed. It's not just fisheries and harvesting tuna for economic purposes, but it's making sure that it's being done in this wider context of protecting the environment that supports the tuna fisheries. The membership is comprised of 26 voting members. Chinese Taipei or Taiwan participates as a fishing entity and participating territories. And then what we have, this group called the cooperating non-members. So they don't enjoy the rights of full membership, although they do have the full set of responsibilities that come along with membership, like reporting. There are countries like Panama that flag a lot of carriers that are operating in the region. Thailand that has a lot of processing facilities where a lot of the tuna that's coming out of this region is being offloaded and processed. Vietnam, same. And this group of countries has to apply for this status on an annual basis. So the reason it's divided by FFA members and non-FFA members is it's really split in the same way that the decision-making and voting is laid out in the convention. Something I won't go into because it's quite complicated, but it's an FFA chamber and a non-FFA chamber. And what that says to me and what it reflects and in the experience in negotiating this convention is the power of this FFA negotiating bloc and this power of the FFA membership in this convention to make decisions. And so that the fact that you have a decision-making mechanism that recognizes that bloc with the FFA as a chamber is really significant. And I mean, I cannot overemphasize the importance of that composition and that framework for decision-making and the way that small island developing states are positioned. The management framework includes managing the gear types, so the purse seine vessels, the longline vessels, some artisanal fisheries, pull and line. The artisanal fisheries are mainly concentrated in Philippines and Indonesia. Management measures, we have the FAD closures. These are the fish aggregating devices. We have closures and limits on when vessels can utilize them, fish on them, catch and weight limits, especially for Pacific bluefin tuna in the north, effort limits, that's the number of days that vessels can fish, and then capacity, so that's generally size of vessels. And these measures, I said earlier about the cooperation and the compatibility, they apply in zone and on the high seas. And so WCPFC ensures that as these management measures are applied, that they're being applied consistently across the same stock of fish. A lot of reporting tools in place. The commission is quite mature now since the first commission meeting in 2004, so now we're 20 years in. We have a really well-established vessel monitoring system, an observer program, a high seas boarding and inspection scheme, lots of data reporting. We're dealing with huge volumes of data in the Secretariat and managing this information to ensure that members have what they need in order to make good decisions. And then the main fishing fleets, so the US, Japan, Korea, European Union, China, all of the developed countries operating a range of fishing vessels in the region, purse seine, longline predominantly, and then the support vessels I mentioned earlier, carriers, bunkers, the fueling vessels. Okay, I'm going to stop there. So those are the basics of WCPFC. And so at this meeting coming up, what the commission will be doing is reviewing the performance of its measures, of its conservation and management measures. It will be optimistically adopting a measure to protect vessel crew on vessels. So this is labor standards. It will be reviewing the seabird measure, ensuring that the measures that it currently has to minimize impacts of fishing on seabirds are adequate. So optimistically, we'll be looking at strengthening that measure at this meeting. The commission will be considering a marine pollution, some amendments to the marine pollution measure to make that stronger. There are a range of data collection measures that are on the agenda. This is where we are 20 years in, that we are refining programs, that we are tightening up the way we manage, that we are closing data gaps, because that to me demonstrates a real high level and important level of maturity that you should expect after 20 years of investing in this organization and investing in this process. So while it might not be the most exciting and thrilling agenda, I think that what it stands to represent in terms of outcomes is really important to continuing to support a really well-managed, sustainable tuna fishery. So with that, I will be happy to take some questions. Thank you very much.